more.
When Wolves are at their best this season, they're almost impossible to score against, so ensuring you're stable yourself is vital if you're going to find a way to beat them. But this was anything but from Spurs. As early as the 7th minute, it looked tough for them when Tottenham failed to clear a Wolves attack after 2 Hugo Lloris saves, at least one of which he may be annoyed he didn't catch. And when it fell to Raul Jimenez, he had time to chest, set himself and volley into the corner for the lead. Heung-min Son wasted an opportunity to level 10 minutes later when he cut back instead of shooting on his right foot when played through, and it proved so costly. A minute later, Lloris put his team under pressure with a terrible pass to Ben Davis, whose clearance fell to Dendoncker. He released Podence, whose trickery saw a shot bounce off Bentancur onto the post, and Dendoncker himself reacted quickest for his first league goal of the season. Tottenham certainly showed fight, but the final ball rarely went for them, and the luck wasn't there either. Winks' deflected effort hitting the post and going wide at the midpoint of the second half, the perfect example. Wolves held on comfortably though, 4 away wins in a row for them now, the first time that's happened in the top flight since 1980. Spurs beaten at home twice in 4 days. Antonio Conte with a face like thunder at more dropped points as they dropped below their visitors in the table. It finished Tottenham 0, Wolves 2.
Antonio Conte with a face like thunder indeed, and that's becoming a more regular occurrence than Spurs fans would like, David Connolly. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because they made some interesting signings in the winter window. It's just not quite happening for them at the moment, is it?
No, I mean, I think today obviously was they came up against a side in really good form in Wolves, you have to say, but you look at the game against Southampton, I thought Southampton were superb and they just couldn't really seem to handle Saints, and it's been tough for them, and I think Conte will get it right, but I think he's one of those managers that maybe just needs more time to work on the training ground and get the squad right, get exactly what he wants, and I'm sure this season he's learning about his players the whole time. I'm sure he'll have a real impact in that summer window, I think.
The situation at the moment is that Wolves are 7th, but they're only 3 points behind West Ham, who are 4th, and Wolves have a game in hand on the Hammers, so very interesting. Spurs on 22 games have 36 points, so they're a point behind Wolves, so we'll see how it develops. Of course, our commentary game has a bearing on that race for 4th. Let's hear from the two managers then, Brendan Rodgers of Leicester City and West Ham's David Moyes.
It's a great opportunity for us, good challenge. We had a tough night up there earlier on in the season when we lost a man early on. They played well and they've got some really good players. However, we come off the back of a much better performance tonight, if not result. And now we've got our supporters behind us at the weekend, and hopefully push us to get a good performance and result.
Well, I think Leicester have got a really good side. I think over the years they've done unbelievably well. They were FA Cup winners. There's not too long ago where they were league winners. And I think they were the sort of club you looked at because of the way they built it. You look at their facilities. You look at the way they went about their recruitment. So I have to say that over the years, I think Leicester have been a very good model for teams trying to improve, such as West Ham, which we've tried to do.
It's an interesting one, this, David, isn't it? Because the two clubs, in a way, have similar profiles in the sense that they haven't traditionally, certainly in the last few years, been used to challenging at the top ends. And you look at what Leicester have done, good facilities, good recruitment, and West Ham are trying to ape the kind of thing that they're doing. Do you think we have seen a shift in the Premier League? We just talked about Wolves in great form. Do you think it is more competitive outside those top 2 or 3 now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that helps when you've got terrific managers like Brendan and David Moyes in charge of these clubs, and I think it takes... I think everything obviously revolves around the manager, in terms of the style of play, the coaching, the recruitment, etc., etc. And I think both these managers have got the aura about them that they earn instant respect in the dressing room with the players, but also that the clubs, I think, they've kissed a few frogs, right? And I think eventually they've landed with their prince. And I think, West Ham, you think about the mess they made under Pellegrini and the money that they wasted. And I think, we never heard but the owners were always on social media and they never left the manager to do his job. Now you don't hear a peep, nothing from the owners. They just allowed David Moyes to manage that football club from top to bottom, and it's great. Now West Ham fans will say we should have signed another striker. Why did we let Sebastian Haller go if we didn't have anyone else lined up because they missed Antonio? And look at Brendan Rodgers, he's got a lot of power there, a lot of autonomy to decide exactly what happens. They've had a few mistakes, maybe signings haven't quite worked out in the window, but nonetheless I think both clubs are benefiting from two vastly experienced managers in charge of those football clubs, just allowing them to manage.
Two excellent managers going toe to toe in the East Midlands this evening. Leicester City against West Ham coming right up. You're listening to Premier League Live.
From the terraces to the touchline, if you're the ultimate football fan, you need to subscribe to the Game Day podcast from TalkSport.
Oh yes! He's done it again!
It's the twice-weekly Premier League roundup that brings you big-name guests, in-depth previews and tough tackling analysis from the world's biggest football league.
Oh, what a finish! He's beaten the keeper to it!
Feel the might of the top flight. Subscribe now to the Game Day podcast. Available on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get bowled over with Following On, the fast-paced cricket podcast from TalkSport that'll hit you for six. It's a pitch-perfect delivery of first-class cricket news.
And that's a beautiful straight drive.
Boasting an impressive strike rate of exclusive big-name guests. And fielding fierce fan reaction.
Oh, that might be out.
Don't get caught out. Subscribe now to the Following On podcast. Available on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
They faced bitter prejudice.
What they had to endure was horrific.
They battled injustice.
Basically, they threw the rule book away.
But their talent was inextinguishable. And they rose to become sporting icons that etched their legacy on the history of English football.
What a strike! What a finish!
Coming in from the cold is an exclusive 6-part documentary that chronicles the struggles and the triumphs of black footballers in the English game. Join Jessica Crichton as she uncovers the untold stories and hears firsthand from a host of superstar names, including John Barnes, Viv Anderson, Luther Blissett, Andy Cole, Rachel Yankee, John Fashanu, and many more.
These guys went through it all, and they are true inspiration.
Coming in from the cold, the history of black footballers in the English game. Listen to the full series now, available on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tom Rennie here to tell you about a new soccer podcast called Week in the Tackle with me and Brian Dunseth.
That's right, Tom. Well, join us for new episodes every Monday as we argue about all the top soccer stories we think are worth tackling.
Plus, we'll welcome the occasional guest to join in on the debate.
Strong opinions, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle, available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts.
If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the TalkSport hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
They're improving week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the TalkSport hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You are listening to TalkSport's coverage of Leicester City against West Ham from the King Power Stadium. I'm your host and match commentator Kevin Hatchard. Alongside me, the former Leicester and West Ham striker David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. So we are all set for what is a very intriguing game. Leicester City 13th, 9 points above the bottom three. And they are a massive 13 points off the top six. It has not been the way they wanted their season to unfold. But as for West Ham, they are fourth, level on points with Manchester United, having played the same number of games. If they could get a win today, it would just give them a bit of clear daylight. The likes of Arsenal, Wolves and Spurs all have games in hand on them. Bit of team news for you, by the way. It has now been confirmed. Kurt Zouma not involved today, pulled up in the warm-up, and and so Issa Diop replaces him. So give you the two lineups in full. Leicester with Kasper Schmeichel in goal, Ricardo Pereira, Daniel Amati, Chala Soyuncu and James Just in the back four, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Wilfred Ndidi and Yuri Tielemans the midfield, and Harvey Barnes, Patson Daka and James Maddison in attack. West Ham with Łukasz Fabianski in goal, Vladimir Sofal, Craig Dawson, Issa Diop and Aaron Cresswell at the back, Tomasz Souček, Declan Rice in midfield, Manuel Lanzini, Pablo Fornals, Jared Bowen all supporting Mikel Antonio. David Connolly alongside me. How big a blow is it going to be for West Ham to lose Kurt Zouma? Obviously he's been in the eye of the storm, obviously that's his fault, but without him, how does it change things?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a like-for-like change with Diop coming in, but make no mistake, I mean, that is a change that David Moyes, as we saw, he took the flak for starting him, so he would have wanted to obviously retain him here. So
yeah, got the worst of both worlds there.
Yeah.
He took all of the flak for, we'll go into that in a little while, but the two sets of players take the knee, a symbol of the ongoing fight against racism and indeed all forms of discrimination. We are underway at the King Power. West Ham in their traditional claret and blue jerseys and claret and blue shorts today, playing from right to left. Leicester in those iconic blue shirts and white shorts, playing from left to right. An early touch for Chala Soyuncu, rolling the ball out to the left-hand side. Here is Harvey Barnes, left edge of the area, chips it towards the far post, and Fabianski is able to grab the ball. Kurt Zouma, if you weren't aware, caused huge controversy recently when a video emerged of him mistreating his cat at home. Cat has been taken into care by the RSPCA since, and the club have fined him 2 weeks' wages, believed to be around £250,000, which will go to animal welfare charities. But Zouma not involved today. He would have been. He was selected for the starting lineup, but he's pulled up in the warm-up. He did start the win over Watford in midweek. David Moyes says that he's extremely remorseful. He says sometimes you need a bit of forgiveness, and he hopes that Zouma in the fullness of time will be forgiven. Right, that's the cap talk out of the way. Leicester City looking to reverse what's been an awful run of form. They're without a win in 3 Premier League matches. Their worst winless run in the top flight under Brendan Rodgers is 4 games, and it's been a really tough season for them. Thrashed 4-1 by old foes Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup recently. Failed to reach the knockout rounds of the Europa League, and they've dropped into the Europa Conference League. Blew a 3-1 lead in the League Cup at Liverpool before losing on penalties at Anfield, and in the league they've won just 3 of their last 12 games, and for a club that's finished 5th, David Connolly, in each of the last 2 seasons, it's a big drop off.
Yeah, it is. I mean, looking at how they've started here pretty well, there's been a lot of rain, and you know, you can see some players slipping over it, trying to close the ball down, and obviously they've got sprinklers on as well, but nonetheless Leicester have started really sharply.
Declan Rice goes to ground in the centre circle. Referee Michael Oliver says play on, and the ball is with Issa Diop, brought in for Kurt Zouma. He was hooked at half-time, Diop, in the very narrow FA Cup win at Kidderminster Harriers. A rather embarrassing performance against non-league opposition. He hasn't been in great form, but he has made 8 Premier League starts this season before today, so it's not as if he was completely frozen out of the first team picture before today.
No, absolutely. Just look at a strong challenge here from Jared Bowen going in on Dewsbury-Hall. He seems to have come off worst here, Bowen, who's been a brilliant signing for them. I think that's the template for a club like West Ham, for so often looking abroad, and you can do that, but they've gone certainly more British, haven't they, in terms of those players that are coming, looking to the Championship as well, dipping into there. Benrahma, Bowen, Zouma coming in as well.
Got a lot of good young players coming through as well. The West Ham Academy, which the club prides itself upon, is producing some great talent.
I guess the challenge for them, as David Moyes has said, is the club has got to grow at the same rate as Declan Rice. You know, that is for sure. You have to be careful that Declan doesn't outgrow them, you know, because he is performing at such a high level. You saw him, he made a difference against Kidderminster. They were going out until he came on. He really changed the game.
Scored a brilliant goal to make it 1-1, send the game to extra time. Declan Rice has talked about his ambitions recently. Says, I've always said I don't want a career where I haven't won anything. I've grown up watching these big players win the Champions League and the Premier League. I want to win it all. If you don't have that ambition, why are you playing? But he has said the transfer speculation around him is just noise. He has to focus on what he does for West Ham. David Moyes has responded to that interview and says we are trying to compete at the top end of the table. We do want to win trophies and we do want to play in the Champions League.
Well, I guess you can only look at Leicester, right? Won the FA Cup, so close, I guess, to playing in the Champions League, so they're not too far off, and that's the template for them. I mean, it's going to be difficult, make no mistake. I think if a Man City come in, if a Chelsea come in, it wouldn't surprise you if Chelsea, you look at Man United, let Paul Pogba go, then re-sign him for 89 million. I mean, Chelsea have done the same. Let Declan Rice go as a kid, and it wouldn't surprise you if they brought him back.
Football is full of examples of that kind of thing. Players that were released and developed so very well after that. See it all over Europe. 5 minutes gone here. Leicester 0, West Ham 0. Lively start from Leicester. Brendan Rodgers talked about West Ham and said this was a great opportunity for his team, a good challenge. Says he feels like they played well at Anfield in defeat on Thursday. Says he was looking forward to having the supporters behind the team this evening. Leicester 0, West Ham 0. Ball is with Daniel Amati. They have had to draft in midfielders in the back line because of the injuries to the likes of Johnny Evans at times. Wesley Fofana has been out since the start of the season, so guys like Wilfred Ndidi and Daniel Amati have been playing in that back line. Chalos Soyuncu brought back into the team today with Ndidi pushing into midfield, and Soyuncu, who's a player that did do well for Leicester last season, had a horrible Euros with Turkey, and that seems to have shattered his confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's already just getting the crowd on his back here a couple of times because he could have played forward until he went back to his goalkeeper, and they've had Chowdhury filling in at the back. I mean, Amati and Soyuncu, you would say their strength is probably, in all honesty, not with a ball at their feet at the back, and that is where maybe Leicester might look to do something in the summer. I think some better ball playing centre halves.
Amati back with the team after representing Ghana at the African Cup of Nations. Space here for Bowen, who seems to be okay after that early knock. Plays it back to the defensive line, and it's hit long. Initially by Sofal, and then there's an aerial challenge, and Soyuncu with his long hair tied back is down on the turf, and he's just having his back rubbed there by Tomasz Souček. He's a physical defender, Soyuncu, and he was on the wrong end of that aerial challenge.
Yeah, it's a bit of an elbow there from Soyuncu, by Souček on Soyuncu, which I don't think was deliberate, but he is bleeding in his mouth here, Soyuncu, and he's a big boy, Souček, so he had to get his arms up knowing he's competing against an equally big defender in Soyuncu, and it looks like he just led with his elbow. I don't think it was a clear forearm smash, but he did make contact.
Leicester in poor form, West Ham very much in good form. They've won 4 of the last 6 Premier League games, including a 1-0 success at home to Watford in midweek. Jared Bowen with a deflected goal to win that one, but West Ham have struggled on the road in the last 2.5 months. They've won just 2 of their last 7 Premier League away games, having actually won 4 of the first 5 of the campaign, and in their last away game they conceded a last gasp winner as Marcus Rashford's goal gave Manchester United a 1-0 win. And you look at that battle for 4th, David, at the moment. West Ham, Manchester United, Arsenal, Wolves and Tottenham are all in there, and Brighton just on the fringe of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be fascinating. That and the battle at the bottom, is going to be really intriguing. I think Liverpool could make it tight, couldn't they, in terms of winning the title, because they have to play Man City in April, so that that might make that a little bit more exciting than it possibly looks at the minute to close that gap. But yeah, the battle for 4th is a fantastic one.
It does feel like Liverpool will have to win pretty much all of their games between now and the end of the season to have any chance of catching beating Manchester City, who've won 20 of their 25 Premier League games this season and lost just 2. Charles Soyuncu is back on his feet, the former Freiburg defender, as Declan Rice rolls the ball out to the right-hand side of Dawson, who's been a regular for West Ham, his 18th league start of the season. And
he's a good player, good signing, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't believe Watford let him go, but wouldn't give him the deal he wanted. Went to West Ham, was absolutely brilliant. Kind of lost his place to Zuma, didn't he? Which was hard for him, but I think a terrific player to have in the dressing room. What a character, and whenever he's called upon, he's always been superb.
He's played in the last 14 Premier League games. Here's Bowen on the end of a long ball. Brilliant from Jared Bowen. That's what he's all about at the moment. One long ball over the top. He scampered onto it, and then a low left-footed finish across Schmeichel and into the far corner. And the Happy Hammers make a fantastic start. It's Leicester 0, West Ham 1.
Oh, it's Bowen again doing the damage. I mean, this is Diop, just helps this ball over the top from deep in his own half. It's about a 60-yard ball. I mean, Soyuncu's caught a little bit square, flat-footed. Bowen's on the end of it, drifts in off wide and becomes almost like a central striker. He controls it really well. He's racing away. James Justin can't get close to him, and he lashes this low into the far corner. It's got to be something special. Kasper Schmeichel, who we saw against Liverpool, was superb, but there's nothing he can do about that strike. Absolutely brilliant.
First touch, Dave, it's brilliant, isn't it? Because it gives him that room that he needs.
Yeah, just takes it away from Justin, who's always, struggling to catch him because he's running on the diagonal. He's taking the ball away from him on the diagonal as well, and he's finished it superbly. I mean, Wout Weghorst had a similar kind of chance, didn't he, for Burnley today? The ball running away from him, and he couldn't quite hit the target, but superb. And what you have to do there is really twist your hips and angle your whole body into that far corner, and he done it so well.
He's a man in form. 7 goals in his last 7 appearances in all competitions, Jared Bowen. He's been such an important part of West Ham's efforts this season. He's only missed 1 game, and that's across the FA Cup, the League Cup, the UEL as well. It's been a big part of their Europa League campaign. West Ham have taken that tournament seriously this season, and they finished top of their group and qualified automatically for the last 16, so they skip this week and next week's playoff rounds. They are looking to qualify for Europe in back-to-back seasons for the first time since the mid-60s. This is a club that is going places, trying to convince the likes of Jared Bowen and Declan Rice not to move to one of the really big hitters in the Premier League. Loose touch by Amati, just showed a bit too much of it to Lanzini, but to Amati's credit, he actually managed to win the challenge and win that ball back. Here's Dawson making his 50th Premier League start, or 50th West Ham start, I should say, this evening. He clears for West Ham. 12th minute, Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Jared Bowen's goal in the 10th minute, and it was a super goal as well. Ball is with the Portuguese right back Ricardo Pereira.
Well, if you just look, Kevin, at how West Ham are defending here, Leicester centre-halves have got the ball, all 11 players for West Ham, more or less in their own half, and just inviting Leicester, go on then, try and break us down, and we're going to sit and counter. And that is what David Moyes has changed in terms of how they play. They're not really going to press the ball like they used to. They've turned into a really efficient counter-attacking team. I think they've done well without Lingard as well. You have to remember the loss of him, because I think he fit perfectly. It was the one position they didn't have, and that was a number 10. To be honest, I still don't think they have it. I don't think Benrahma's the answer. I like Lanzini, but if you had someone like Lingard in there, as he showed last year when he came in, they just became such a ruthless, efficient counter-attacking team, and that's certainly the model that Moyes has gone down.
That goal from Jared Bowen, by the way, is the 40th Leicester have leaked in the Premier League this season. This is only their 22nd match. They've only kept 3 clean sheets in their last 32 competitive matches. Defending has been the problem for the Foxes this season, and they trail once again. 13 minutes on the watch at the King Power. Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Leicester have actually won 3 of their last 5 Premier League home games, including a 1-0 win over Liverpool here. But in the 2 games they didn't win, they led Spurs 2-1 in stoppage time, somehow managed to lose 3-2, and they also conceded a late leveller in a 1-1 draw with Brighton. It doesn't matter how well you're playing, if you can't keep clean sheets, there's always a chance the opposition can actually sneak a win or sneak a draw.
Well, they haven't exactly had to work hard to break Leicester down there, have they? It's just a simple ball over the top. Soyuncu caught too high and Amati too low, so in terms of a unit, the two centre-halves not working in the same line, and that just allowed Bowen to dart in behind and not be offside.
Leicester fans trying to do their bit, but here is James Maddison, the number 10 for Leicester, who's barely been involved so far. Leicester rocked back on their heels by that West Ham goal. West Ham have now scored in 27 of their 30 Premier League meetings with Leicester.
Well, I don't know if you can hear that. You just hear the crowd there. I mean, they're just starting to turn, because they want Leicester to go forward, and they're just giving the ball, playing it around between the back unit, and that's because West Ham are saying, go on then, you try and break us down, we're going to sit off, we're not going to press you so you can pick us off, and then we're going to try and nick it and counter. And the Leicester, the Foxes fans are just getting really frustrated. You can just hear it every break off.
It's been a matchup that's worked really well for West Ham in recent games. They won the reverse fixture 4-1. Jose Perez was sent off in the first half of that game, and the Hammers are chasing a 4th straight Premier League win against the Foxes. They've scored at least 3 goals in all of those victories, and they were the only team in the Premier League to win both games against Leicester last season. Is out with James Justin on the left. It's just good to see him back on the pitch. To be honest, he had a long spell out, having picked up an ACL injury in February last year, but he's now played 5 in a row, including this one, in all competitions. Ball played towards Maddison down the inside right channel, but it gets away from him. Well won by Souček in midfield. Now Declan Rice just rolls it back to Issa Diop. We understand, by the way, Kurt Zouma was ill during the warm-up and was not injured. I understand that it is illness that caused him to talk to the coaching staff and say that he couldn't play in this one. Here is Soyuncu on halfway. Quarter of an hour gone in the East Midlands. Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Jarrod Bowen with a fantastic finish to give West Ham the lead.
Well, you can just hear the fans. I mean, that booing is because of how Leicester are playing, and they retain the ball for a little spell there, and then eventually try to play forward and break a line and get in behind West Ham. They give it away, and that's the frustration from the Leicester fans. They're not really progressive enough with their passes. It just seems to be hard for the likes of Daka and Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans to get on the ball. Maddison, because of how West Ham are set up, really well defensively set up.
They're not exactly replete with confidence at the moment, Leicester. Brendan Rodgers pulled no punches after the 4-1 defeat at East Midlands rivals Forest in the FA Cup. Said it was awful and embarrassing. As West Ham look to advance down the right-hand side here with Antonio, but it's hooked away towards halfway, and Craig Dawson will just let that ball go out for a West Ham throw. Here is Diop, the former Toulouse player. Now Declan Rice, who's so impressive for England at the European Championship in the summer. England getting all the way to the final on home soil before losing to Italy on penalties. Here he is again, just bringing the ball down. Telescopic control from him there, and the ball put out of play because of an injury to Aaron Cresswell, and there's going to be a yellow card shown here by Michael Oliver. Ricardo just apologising to Cresswell, but he will be the first name in Michael Oliver's book.
Yeah, his touch just got away from him in Cresswell, and it just invited Ricardo Pereira to come in and try and win the ball. He is a little bit late. Cresswell just releases it out wide to Fornals. He does catch him, Pereira. The referee tried to play an advantage there, but I think they'd probably rather have the free kicks. In the end, they didn't make the most of that.
18th minute. Leicester 0, West Ham 1. West Ham 4th in the table, and they will be 4th whatever happens this evening. And as things stand, they will consolidate their position and go 3 points clear of Manchester United. They go 4 clear of Arsenal. They'll have played 3 games more than Arsenal. They go 6 clear of Wolves and 7 clear of Tottenham. There's still a long way to go. Soyuncu's header forwards, looking for Dewsbury Hall, player who has forced his way into the Foxes lineup this season. He started the last 8 in the Premier league. Here is Lanzini, the Argentinian, out to Fornals, inside left channel for West Ham, the number 8 for the Hammers. Back to Declan Rice, Rice back to Fornals. Fornals forward now to Lanzini. This is silky smooth from West Ham, out to Cresswell, wide on the left. His cross is blocked by Pereira, and that's going to roll back to Declan Rice. Saunters onto the loose ball, strokes it into the centre circle for Dawson. Dawson shuffles towards his right, finds Sofal up the touchline, looking for Souček, who's run out of room there. Winces and looks to the heavens. He knows he got that one wrong, and Leicester will have the throw. Yeah, and that is where, when you only play one striker and you want one of your midfielders to make a run forward, that's where your centre half has to pick him up. So Soyuncu coming into contact with Souček. Eventually Souček just runs the ball out of play. And I think what's great for West Ham is, Souček maybe not amongst the goals like he was last season, but nonetheless they've supplemented it by getting goals from other parts of the pitch, and that's been really important for them. And he's always had that potential. He was a regular goal scorer, certainly European competition for Slavia Prague when they were playing well in the Europa League. He does have that in his locker, as David said. He did that last season. He's got 3 goals in the Premier League in this campaign, but he hasn't scored in 2022 yet. He nods the ball forward now to Fornals. Here is Antonio playing with his back to goal. Now Declan Rice striding forwards out to the right touchline for Sofal. Sofal's cross is cleared at full stretch by Ndidi. Dewsbury Hall with a nice little drop of the shoulder, plays it down the left touchline to James Justin, up towards Harvey Barnes. He's been quiet so far, and he's dispossessed. And here comes Souček, and at the moment you can see who the team with confidence is, you can see who the team with the swagger is, and it is not Leicester City. Yeah, very confident here from West Ham. Obviously the goal helps, and ask any manager, you go away from home, can we silence them, get the crowd on their backs? They've turned a few times already. Here's Ricardo Pereira though, moving into space down the right, turns away from a couple of challenges, finds Maddison. Now Dewsbury Hall just in front of the centre circle, plays it square to Justin and back to Ndidi, and again they've gone backwards, and again the home fans are frustrated. That's not going to help matters. Here is Maddison coming deep to receive possession in the centre circle. Well, we heard this at Goodison, didn't we, a few weeks ago, and the fans, sort of getting on their backs, and then yesterday right behind them certainly helped them get the result over Leeds. West Ham went into this game having scored 42 goals in the Premier League, their highest ever tally at this stage of the Premier League season. You have to go back to 1969 for the last time they had this many goals at this stage of a top flight season. Again, Leicester looking to build, but it's all a bit laborious until Barnes tries to go through the gears, and the ball spins into the penalty area, and Fabianski is able to grab it. 36 now, Łukasz Fabianski, signed from Arsenal, player who has retired now from international duty with Poland. He burst into tears in his final game for Poland, which is against San Marino. He got a guard of honour as he was substituted. Ball is with Lanzini, tight to the right touchline for West Ham, tried a little 1-2 with Bowen. Leicester trying to bring it clear, and that was really good work actually from Dewsbury Hall, and now it's pumped long for Patson Daka to chase, and he loves this kind of service, but Fabianski, all in green tonight, came and claimed the long ball. Yeah, he was unlucky, he just skipped away from Daka there. I think Fabianski's, as you mentioned, been a superb signing for them. Got injured a couple of times in pre-game warm-ups actually, which put down Randolph in, but I think by and large he's been a superb signing. Another one, solid, pro, reliable. Here's this ball over the top from Tielemans, looking for Daka. Terrific, but the ball just skipped off the turf. Maybe that greasy surface just carried it away from him and into the arms of Fabianski. It was a lovely delivery by Tielemans. There's been a lot of talk about his future recently. Contract expires at the end of next season, and he is not expected to sign a new one. So the club are going to have a decision to make in the summer about whether to sell him and get a bit of profit, or whether they keep him for one more season. Forward by Tielemans to Dewsbury Hall. Of course, Leicester, as things stand, facing a season without European competition next term, unless they win the Conference League, maybe. Forward by Tielemans into the area and nodded behind. No chances taken by Sofal, and it'll be a corner to Leicester.
Yeah, I actually think he was trying to head this back into the arms of Fabianski, Sofal, but he got this wrong, didn't quite direct his header, and it's gone out for a needless corner. Will it be costly for West Ham? Leicester's first corner of the evening, the first corner we've had full stop in this game. 24th minute, Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Jared Bowen's goal in the 10th minute, separating the teams, and a very nice goal it was too. Player in terrific form this season. James Maddison, that wispy beard of his, preparing to whip the ball in right-footed from the far side, the left, as we look at it. Plenty of air on it towards the far post, and glanced away by Antonio under pressure from Chalo Soyuncu. They've only scored one-headed goal in the Premier League this season, Leicester, which is something of a surprise when you think they do have players who can attack the ball in set-piece situations. Well, they've certainly got players who can put the ball where they want it as well. You know, the likes of Maddison on dead ball delivery. But, I mean, they're up against a big... Look at that West Ham unit. It's massive. Rice, Souček, Dawson, Diop. Big boys.
Another header won this time by Cresswell. Knotted behind for another corner. And Leicester are starting to try and build some momentum here. Can they draw level? West Ham have been the better team so far. They took an early lead, and they have played with comfort and with quality. As the rain falls in the East Midlands, a grim February evening, and it has been grim for Leicester so far. Dewsbury Hall will take, left-footed towards the 6-yard box, fisted away by Fabianski, back out to Dewsbury Hall inside the penalty area. Good challenge. That's going to be another corner kick. Cresswell concedes it.
Yep, I mean, he's a left footer, so it's going to be an in-swinger. And where the West Ham big players are positioned, they're zonal, they're marking zonally, so there's like 5 of them across the 6-yard box, and it just means the smaller players, the likes of Sofal, Antonio, they've got a job of man marking those runners that are coming in from Leicester. Can they block them and just allow those zones to go and head it clear, or the keeper, Fabianski, down?
Dewsbury Hall plays it short this time to Maddison, infield to Tielemans. His first time ball is headed away by Bowen. Ricardo Pereira smashes it into the air, headed away by Souček. It is land of the giants back there for West Ham, and away comes Rice now, pumping his arms and legs as he strides over the halfway line down the right, floats it into the penalty area. Fornals, gorgeous first touch to bring the ball down, waiting for support to arrive, finds Bowen away from the defender, his low shot, and that's blocked by Amati. Fornals with the cross back in, that's only half cleared, but Leicester eventually do manage to get the ball away. Diop tries to keep the pressure on, it'll fall to Fornals, left edge of the area. Fornals with the cut back, away by Soyuncu, came off Maddison, and the whistle is gone, and the referee stopped play because Ricardo Pereira is down. But once again, Leicester did look stretched.
Yeah, they did. It's actually on this contact here, Pereira's down. There's another aerial contact with Souček. Pereira's indicating it's an elbow, but the referee allowed an advantage. They just needed a better ball in there, West Ham. In the end, they've got away with this, Leicester, because they were just able to relieve the pressure from that attack and get the ball back, and West Ham were in possession again. Much to the annoyance of the home fans, Leicester have returned the ball to West Ham. West Ham pump it long down the right towards Bowen, headed away by the former Luton man, James Justin. Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Stats will tell you Leicester simply too easy to play against. They've allowed more shots than any other team in the Premier League, despite having only played 21 games. Their XG against figure of 44.1 says they're giving up an average of over 2 expected goals per game. And if data's not your thing, let me just tell you that is bad. Here is Fornals, inside left channel. Rolls the ball into the centre circle for Declan Rice. Here's Diop. West Ham knocking the ball around crisply and with confidence. Cresswell down the left-hand side for the visitors, who lead 1-0. Taking on Ricardo Pereira. Talked about James Justin being out for a long time as Pereira wins the free kick. Pereira had a fractured fibula
December, and he's come back, and he also has had an ACL injury. He's had a tough time of it in England.
He has. I mean, he's been dreadfully unlucky. I think he's a terrific player. A couple of seasons ago, he's arguably the best right back in the Premier League, or one of them, that's for sure. He was superb when they were, finishing in the top, challenging for the top 4, finishing 5th, and yeah, he's been a real loss for them. But he's back fit now.
Came with a big reputation from Portuguese football, and he's been a terrific player when he's been fit. Here is Maddison down the right-hand side, touches the touchline, trying to win the corner, and he does, off Cresswell. That's about 3 corners that Cresswell has conceded. No fault of his own, but shows how much defending he's having to do in that wide area.
Yeah, they're persisting with in-swingers both sides, so if it was Maddison on the other side, but this side, it's Dewsbury Hall, so I imagine they went short last time just to change the angle, because you're up against such height. Oh, this is a worry for them. James Justin is down.
He seems to pull something. Oh dear, yes, he's just rubbing the back of the leg.
Well, I can lip read.
Well, as
the physio came over, you could lip read, and he said hamstring, and that means, my game is over. Very hard to run off a hamstring injury.
There's me trying to make out I've got physio's knowledge, and there's David Connolly just simply lip reading. So it looks as though they're going to make a change. Luke Thomas is going to come on. Kind of reasonably expected to be in the starting lineup, actually, Luke Thomas, but there was always going to be an element of rotation after that trip to Anfield on Thursday. Leicester actually played okay in that game against Liverpool, but Liverpool broke them down in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think they plugged away, and Liverpool dominated the ball as you'd expect, and the shots. It was something like, near enough 70-30 possession and 20-odd shots or whatever, so they peppered the goal. Schmeichel had to be superb, and he was.
So one imagines that Ricardo Pereira will stay in his position, and Luke Thomas will move into the left-back role. Justin has walked down the tunnel. He's walked fairly comfortably, so it doesn't seem to be anything too serious, but when you've had the injury issues he's had, you don't want to take any chances.
No, absolutely. Luke Thomas, when you're a defender, it's probably unexpected for you to get a chance, but as we've seen with West Ham, with Zuma getting injured in the warm-up, these things happen, so you've got to be ready. Let's hope he is.
Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Half an hour gone at the King Power. Here comes the corner for Leicester towards the far post, headed away brilliantly. They have defended ever so solidly in those situations so far, West Ham. And Leicester have to find a way to apply some pressure. Leicester 13 points worse off than they were at this stage of last season. 19 worse off than they were 2 seasons ago. Although they have set the bar incredibly high for themselves. Won the FA Cup for the first time in their history last season, beating Chelsea in the final. They beat Manchester City in the Community Shield at the start of this season. It has been a glittering period for them. Of course, they pulled off one of the most extraordinary title wins European football's ever seen back in 2016 when they won the Premier League title. Here goes Cresswell down the inside left channel for West Ham, finding Fornals. Back it goes to Cresswell. His cross is blocked by Maddison, who works really hard to get back in there, and he makes the block for the corner.
Yeah, look, he's such a willing runner, isn't he, Aaron Cresswell? This time he goes on the underlap, gets to the byline, but James Maddison, as you say, tracked the run well. Now this will be interesting. I can't recall too many West Ham corners. And with the height they've got, okay, great, it helps out defensively, but now from an attacking sense, you look at Dawson on the edge of the box, Souček on the edge of the box, Diop there, Declan Rice. They're going to be a real threat at this.
It's Cresswell's 242nd Premier League appearance for West Ham tonight. Only Mark Noble has more in the Premier League era for the club. Corner down this left-hand side, the near side as we look at it for West Ham. Antonio on the penalty spot. Cresswell towards the far post, guided away but not very far. It'll come for Fornals, thinks about the shot but sweeps it instead to the left hand side in Cresswell. Drops the shoulder against Ricardo Pereira but turns and goes back to Fornals, who was caught by James Maddison. No malice in that, he just tried to close the Spaniard down, and that will be a free kick but nothing more.
Yeah, I just wonder, as Adam Cresswell just ducked inside, I think he could have just delivered the ball in the end, played it about 15 yards backwards towards his own goal to Fornals, and actually Maddison nearly nicked it off him, caught Fornals in the process, and well, it's a free kick, and you imagine this will be going straight into the box because the centre halves are still up. It's almost like another corner here.
There are plenty of goals when these two meet usually, and there hasn't been a goalless draw between these two since 1999, and we've had a goal once again in this game. Bowen after 10 minutes, that's the only goal so far. 34th minute, Leicester 0, West Ham 1. Cresswell's ball in, again not convincingly cleared. Lanzini plays it into the box, laid off by Diop, played in by Bowen. Again, Soyuncu's clearance wasn't that convincing, but they just about got the job done. It's a team that looks fragile at the moment, Leicester City. Ball is with Ndidi. Has been playing well at centre-back. And Brendan Rodgers actually indicated that he thought he was more valuable at centre-back at the moment than central midfield, but Amati coming back from the African Cup of Nations has allowed him to move Ndidi forwards.
Well, you mentioned about the scorelines between these two. When I left West Ham, ironically I went to Leicester, and first game of the season, who did we play at Leicester? West Ham. And obviously the Leicester fans are singing "We Got Dave Connolly, had a chance," and I missed the target, and the West Ham fans sang "You've Got Dave Connolly," and that was the wit, the banter you get, brilliant banter from the West Ham fans.
We'll have to start calling it the David Connolly derby, I think.
Yeah.
Here's Dewsbury Hall in the centre circle, placing to Thomas, who is making his 50th appearance for Leicester today. The 20-year-old joined the club at the age of just 7. Luke Thomas. And ball slightly behind Maddison. Took his eye off it slightly. Forward by Ricardo Pereira down the right. Headed away by Cresswell. And then Lanzini was just caught there in the centre of midfield. He goes down, clutching his left knee. Tielemans with the challenge, and that's going to be a free kick to West Ham.
Yeah, this just all comes about from a bit of sloppy passing from Leicester. They give the ball away and then they're always chasing their tail. West Ham have got it back, and they're just doing that a little bit sharper, haven't they, West Ham, with and without the ball.
Tielemans is an interesting one. He's found his best form as a Leicester City player. If you think of how it was going for him earlier in his career, he was the next big thing when he was at Anderlecht in Belgium. Seen as a very, very promising teenager. Had a spell at Monaco where it didn't really work out for him as they look to rebuild their sides. And it's only really at Leicester where we've seen the best of Yuri Tielemans. Mikel Antonio is down.
Well, Kasper Schmeichel is screaming at Daniel Amati to play forward. He's going to take it off him. I mean, they're 1-0 down. Amati saying, look, just calm down. But obviously the fans aren't happy. They're losing. They're in a bit of a rut. And Schmeichel just wants Amati just to go and play. It's not head injury, so...
It's an interesting one, that. And it just kind of shows the tension at the moment because Amati saw Antonio down, felt the best thing to do would be to stop the game. And Kasper Schmeichel actually came out of his penalty area to try and play the ball ahead of Amati and take it off him, but I think there was a little bit of guilt in there from Amati because he effectively kicked him in the arm.
Well, he did. I mean, I've been on the wrong end of that. I got to be honest, these two teeth that I've got here are not my real ones. That's why they look a little bit nicer than all the others. Because I was in a similar situation like that. Ball came up to me on my chest, controlled it. I was playing against Johnny Evans in training at Sunderland, and he tried to win it from behind, kicked me straight in the face and killed my two front teeth. So I have a bit of sympathy here for Mikel Antonio.
Did he pay for the new teeth?
No, because actually I paid for them about 4 years later after I left the club, so out of my own pocket, which was a bit of a bad decision.
Should have made him pay for them, absolutely. Well, Mikel Antonio just holding that arm It's interesting when you listen to Antonio talk about his switch to centre forward, because he's played in a lot of different positions before he was a striker.
Well, I played him wide. Yeah, he came through at Southampton with me. He was a winger, and he was an unorthodox winger, and he has really refined his game.
Are you surprised by how far he's come?
I don't know, but because obviously we've seen so many players go on different journeys, you never discount anyone, and obviously at the start of their career, as Mikel came in as a very raw wide man, but you could tell he had all the attributes. But did I ever see him as a centre forward? Maybe not, purely because he never had at that time.
He didn't either.
No, he didn't, and we had Ricky Lambert, plenty of other centre forwards at Southampton then. So
he said, when you've got your back to goal, defenders come through the back of you, and you have to be able to take that hit, control the ball, find the pass. Certainly has the physique to do that. But it doesn't matter how big and strong you are, if somebody kicks you in the arm, it hurts. Here is Tielemans, 35 yards out, dead centre, out to the right hand side of Ricardo Pereira. That's neat and tidy, and Tielemans trying to hit it first time. It was a tough angle, and he curls it wide of the near post for a goal kick to West Ham. But Tielemans trying to get the crowd going.
Yeah, this is not a bad idea from Tielemans. Receives it on the inside channel, plays it out wide to Pereira, then continues his run on the inside. I mean, it's ambitious to go for goal from there. He's at a really acute angle, tries to wrap his foot around it, aiming for the near post, but it's tough. I think he might be better off trying to look in the box or going across goal. But nonetheless, as you say, he's trying to cajole the crowd, get them on side.
Leicester have struggled at home for a while, actually. They've lost 13 Premier League games here since the start of last season. They only collected 28 points here last term, played 38 on their travels, so they have been better away from home. And you think of the speed they have up front, think of Jamie Vardy when he has been fit. They are kind of built for that away game, that counter-attacking, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Space here for Souček, inside right channel rather, jabs it out to his fellow Czech so far. Both former Slavia Prague players, both Czech internationals. Sofal tries to play it down the right, is easily picked off, and here go Leicester. Patson Daka, the Zambian, who's been a peripheral figure so far. Back to Luke Thomas, Harvey Barnes now. Inside left channel, the number 7 for Leicester, Harvey Barnes. Drifts it to Ricardo Pereira. Pereira with a little 1-2, and then he chips the ball into the box. Back to Ricardo Pereira. Can he get the shot away? He can't. It's blocked by Diop. And here goes Mikel Antonio on the counter-attack, but he's all alone. Bowen trying to get up there with him. It is sensational hold-up play by Mikel Antonio. That was brilliant. Waiting for the rest of the team to join him. Leicester couldn't get anywhere near him.
Well, just like Leicester's attacks at the minute, they really need that central player. Here he is now, Daka, but when he drifts out wide, they've got nobody in the box.
Ball is with James Maddison, just in front of the centre circle. Rolls it out to Harvey Barnes. Can be a dynamic player. He's hit on his right foot, and he went for the curler, and it's high and wide from Harvey Barnes, who has only scored twice in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, we've seen him cut in from this sort of position before. I remember last week, I think Wilf Zaha cut in from a similar sort of angle and bent this into the far corner, similar area, 20 yards out. He's always going high and over though.
Only 5 goals in all competitions this season. He got 13 last season. Came through the Leicester youth ranks, Harvey Barnes. He made his England debut in October 2020. There is a player there, David, isn't there?
Oh, make no mistake, yeah. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's had a bit of a disrupted season, which has affected him. But, I mean, on his day, he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, him and Jared Bowen, I guess, this season Jared's having the season that Harvey had probably last season. So, he's linked with England like Harvey was, etc.
Space here down the right-hand side for Souček. Languid stride, trying to make tracks down the right-hand side. He's got the ball back. Just plays it out of play. He was in a tight area there. Just a little nod to a teammate to admit that didn't quite go how he wished it to. There's some encouragement for Leicester in the sense that West Ham are not exactly watertight. They've conceded 31 goals. Look at the top half of the table, only Southampton and Manchester United have conceded more. Ball headed up in the air by Soyuncu. Ndidi jumps with Souček, and Ndidi won that one. Maddison under pressure from Fornals. That was excellent from Maddison. Just jabbed it with the outside of his right boot, and the ball curled into the path of Harvey Barnes, who has it now. Turning to face West Ham. Plays it into the feet of Patson Daka. That's lovely. Played with his back to goal. He's found Ricardo Pereira. His cross is a good one. Nodded away by Dawson. That was excellent defending by West Ham's number 15. But there is some momentum, and the crowds have something to hang on to here. Dewsbury Hall down the left-hand side. Nice first touch. Goes down. Referee had a long look at that. Gives the corner and nothing more.
Yeah, just got his foot in here. Souček, he had to get this right because Dewsbury Hall, terrific turn from the throw to go towards goal, and he just got a touch on the ball, Souček, which was a good job. That was probably their best move of the match, Leicester, leading up to that. Ball into Daka, nice little turn, fed it out wide. You just look, though, every time they put a cross in the box, are they likely to get a contact on it? I don't think so. Not with those big players that West Ham have at the back.
Let's see if they can change that. It'll be Maddison's take. Raises a gloved hand and prepares to deliver this ball. Soyuncu on the edge of the 6-yard box, in towards the near post. Was that a handball? It was. Penalty. Referee Michael Oliver immediately pointed to the spot, and Aaron Cresswell looks aghast, but I think he knows that he's handled that ball.
Well, he's just lost the flight of it, and as the ball goes over Amati's head, maybe he just can't quite see it. He's got to head it away, and his arm is clearly up, and there's no thinking time needed for Michael Oliver. I mean, as soon as it came in, I gave the old ooh. Yeah, that is a pen.
So here we go. Youri Tielemans with the opportunity to score what would be his first Premier League goal of 2022, his 6th of the season. Big moment in the game just before half-time. Nearly 44 minutes on the watch. Łukasz Fabianski told to go back on his line. Youri Tielemans with a deep breath. The King Power holds its breath. This could shape the game. It's Tielemans, and it's brilliantly put away into the bottom corner. Fabianski went the right way. It was a full stretch, and he got nowhere near it. Coolly done by the Belgian, and it's all square, 1-1.
Yeah, he's gone to the favoured side for right footers normally on penalties, to the goalkeeper's right. Really whipped it. I think it's the power that took it past Fabianski. Really well placed, low into that bottom corner. And out of nowhere, they're back in the game.
Beautifully tucked away, just inside the post. And Youri Tielemans may well be being linked with a move away from the club, but he's up for this today. Determined to focus on Leicester while he is here, however long that may be.
Well, that's going to change the half-time team talk for both managers.
West Ham started so well, but Leicester slowly but surely have clambered up the mountain, and they found a way to equalise. The rain still falling heavily at the King Power Stadium, but that's a massive boost.
It is, and also the reaction of the crowd at half-time is going to be totally different. If they were going in 1-0 down, well, let me tell you, there'll be a chorus of boos, but now, completely different.
Bit of momentum for the Foxes, and here goes Harvey Barnes down the left. He'll take on Sofal, goes down, referee says get up. Sofal stood his ground and Barnes went to ground, and no free kick was given. 3 minutes of added time. We're well into the first of those. Premier League Live, Leicester 1, West Ham 1. Good game at the King Power Stadium. Here's Dewsbury Hall, inside left channel, approaching the corner of the area. Back to Ndidi. Forward now, rather waywardly by Tielemans, and West Ham able to clear. Fornals with an early ball to Antonio, and he's taking on Amati, and he's gone past Amati, clips it to the far post. It might fall for Fornals. The referee gives the free kick against the Spaniard Pablo Fornals for a little nudge in the back of his defender, and that will be relief for Leicester City.
Well, Tielemans has scored one goal, but he stopped another one here. Look, he doesn't have the ball. He's about 20 yards behind Fornals, and as Antonio's racing out, look at this lung-busting run from Tielemans. He knows he's got to catch Fornals because he's completely free in the box, and he does just that. That is as good as his penalty goal, let me tell you. That is really good play. Forces a foul from Fornals, and They remain 1-1.
Terrific box-to-box play from Yuri Tielemans. David Moyes in his coat looking rather sodden on the edge of his technical area. He described Leicester as a really good side who've done unbelievably well in recent seasons. Said you look at the club's facilities and recruitment, they're a great model for clubs like us to follow.
Well, can West Ham get a better training ground? That's the challenge. I mean, Leicester paid 100 million just for theirs. New one, state of the art, probably the best, well, one of the best in the country. I remember at West Ham, I don't know if they are, but they were in porter cabins for a long, long time. You know, when I was there, it was good enough for some of the absolute greats. But nonetheless, I think football moves on. They can certainly do with a new one.
Ball hammered long down the centre, headed away by Marty, not very far. Bit of frustration again from the home fans. Here's Declan Rice charging forwards into space. Still going, Declan Rice rolls it to his left for Fornals, cuts it back, shot comes in deflected, and it goes behind for a goal kick, says Michael Oliver. It was Cresswell who had the shot just inside the penalty area, didn't begin to catch hold of it, and Leicester survived.
Yeah, good attack here. Declan Rice driving into the box, feeds it wide to Fornals. Cresswell just checked off on the edge, not a clean contact, takes a bobble, hits Lanzini, doesn't really know too much about it, and goes behind for a goal kick.
That may well be the last act of a very entertaining first half. Hope you've enjoyed it here on Premier League Live. Remember, you can get in touch with us on our Twitter feed at TalkSport Live. It is all square at the end of a very entertaining first half. Jarrod Bowen racing clear in the 10th minute to fire into the far corner beyond Kasper Schmeichel. West Ham looked really good at that stage, but Leicester found a way to equalise, and a needless handball from Aaron Cresswell gave Yuri Tielemans the chance to equalise from the spot, and equalise he did on the stroke of half-time. The half-time score at the King Power Stadium is Leicester 1, West Ham 1. You're listening to Premier League Live.
It's the ultimate fusion of football and celebrity.
The Best 11 podcast from TalkSport.
Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture,
looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories,
how they celebrated their team's successes,
culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sports? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the TalkSport Hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
They're improving week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the TalkSport Hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Beat off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ella Price is dead. Champions.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Clellan striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nation's international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with a strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to our coverage of Leicester City against West Ham here on Premier League Live. It is 1-1 after a very entertaining first half. And here were your first half highlights. Bowen on the end of a long ball. Brilliant from Jared Bowen. That's what he's all about at the moment. One long ball over the top. He scampered onto it, and then a low left-footed finish across Schmeichel and into the far corner. And the Happy Hammers make a fantastic start.
He controls it really well. He's racing away. James Justin can't get close to him, and he lashes this low into the far corner. It's got to be something special. Kasper Schmeichel, who we saw against Liverpool, was superb, but there's nothing he can do about that strike. Absolutely brilliant.
The kick power holds its breath. This could shape the game. It's Tielemans, and it's brilliantly put away into the bottom corner. Fabianski went the right way. It was a full stretch, and he got nowhere near it. Coolly done by the Belgian, and it's all square. 1-1. Good game so far. Leicester fighting back from going a goal down early on, and David Connolly alongside me, a man who played for both of these clubs. Leicester had to really go to the well there, didn't they? Because the first quarter of the game, they looked in big trouble.
Yes, they were really disappointing, let's be frank. West Ham got their early goal, which helped settle them down, and then it was a case of, right, come on then, Leicester, can you find a way through us? And they couldn't. You know, their passing was really poor. They had no real threat up top, and got back into the game with really just an individual error. You know, Aaron Creswell misjudging the flight of the ball in, came off his arm, and I think that has really dug them out of a big hole now, and going in at half time all square is going to be a big boost to them.
Is David Moyes going to be a bit disappointed that having made the start they made, they didn't really build on it, did they?
Well, I guess, look, their template in terms of how they played didn't really change from being a goal up. You know, and why should it? Because you know, it's not exactly like they invited Leicester onto them. Leicester was barely in their box. You know, they kept them at bay pretty well. You know, really, they got the corner from nothing, and as I say, they look very comfortable defending those corners, and it was just an individual error that's cost them. And otherwise, you know, I think David Moyes would be pretty satisfied. I think he'll be disappointed that he's gone in 1-1 to concede such a soft penalty, especially from someone so dependable as Aaron. Just completely lost the flight of the ball, and he did raise his arm, and it was clear. I mean, Michael Oliver was only a couple of feet away, and you know, there was no decision to make. It was a clear penalty.
7 goals in the last 7 games in all competitions for Jared Bowen. He got the winner against Watford in midweek. He got the opener in this one. Just how good is he right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's in really good form. He's typifies, I think, this David Moyes team works ever so hard, you know, but he's got talent as well, but it puts the hard yards in. I've got to say, you know, by the same token, you know, Yuri Tielemans has put on a performance, like a captain's performance here, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, I think both players symbolise their teams. You know, Tielemans there getting back at the end to track Fornals when he was in on the counter attack. You know, great, and he's tried to get the crowd going, Tielemans, isn't he? You know, and I think he's taken on that responsibility. A lot of talk that he's maybe linked with a move away. I think he's deliberately tried to put that extra yard in today to show that he is, you know, he is here to fight for the cause, and it's a big goal for them.
You've mentioned that crowd. From a player's point of view, this crowd feels quite fragile in the sense that if the opposition get on top in that second half, especially in the early part, feels like the crowd could turn.
Yeah, you just wonder where maybe the balance has tipped somewhat, though, towards the home fans. I think if they'd have gone in 1-0 down, at half time, you would have heard that, you know, through the microphones, let me tell you. But as it is now, they'll need the crowd on side. They need to start well, play forward, play on the front foot. Have they got enough quality to break down West Ham? You got to be honest, didn't really show that much that they had in the first 45, but they're back in the game, and you know, the crowd obviously seen a lot of, you mentioned it, the stats, they've seen a lot of defeats at the King Power, and it looked like going in towards half time they were going to be down again.
Big result for Wolves earlier today. They won 2-0 at Tottenham. Let's hear from the Wolves boss Bruno Lage, who says they are better than their results have suggested.
Now we are in the moment that I want to see the players do one step in front and to say, hey, I'm here, I'm not comfortable with what we have, I'm not comfortable with the point we have, the position we have, I want more for me, for my career. So I show in the pitch. That is about character.
They're a really interesting team, Wolves. Bruno Lage is a guy that was a youth coach for a long time at Benfica and got the nod to take the senior job. Won the title, won it in fine style. It rather fell apart after that, but he's a progressive guy who wants to attack, who wants to score goals. If you didn't know anything about Wolves, you'd look at the results and you'd look at the goals they score and say, well, this must be a team that tries to grind its way through every game. But they're not really like that, are they, Wolves?
No, and I think even in the games they've lost, if you look at the Liverpool game, it was only by the odd goal. And at times they've been hard to beat. You know, even Burnley, they take a point. But you go to the Man City game, you know, unlucky, ground it out. City in the end, another narrow defeat. And, you know, Chelsea, they nicked a point off them as well. Yeah. So they've shown they can beat those teams in and around them, but also take some points off the top teams.
Of course, the other side of that is Tottenham. They've suffered back-to-back home defeats, beaten by Southampton on Wednesday, now beaten by Wolves. And Antonio Conte says they need to focus their efforts on rebuilding.
At the moment for me, and to try to rebuild a team that the Tottenham fans are to be proud, and I think for many years, you know, and the problem started after the final Champions League, and something. It's not only a last period, and we are talking about a long period. It means that when you come from a long period, it means that something has changed compared to the past.
So disappointment for Tottenham. The situation in terms of the top four right now. So if West Ham end up drawing this game, they'll move on to 41 points from 25 games. Manchester United are in 5th. They've got 40 points from 24. Arsenal 6th on 39 from 22. Then you've got Wolves 37 points from 23. And Tottenham behind them 36 from 22. So it's all a little bit fractured and all a little bit confusing at the moment because teams have played different numbers of games. But what we do know is there's a great battle for the top four. You are listening to Premier League Live.
It's the ultimate fusion of football and celebrity.
The Best 11 podcast from TalkSport.
Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture.
Looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories.
How they celebrated their team's successes.
Culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the TalkSport hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
Then improving week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the TalkSport hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Hit off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ella Price is there to tap it
in. The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Clellan striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to TalkSport's coverage of Leicester City against West Ham from the King Power Stadium. I'm your host and match commentator Kevin Hatchard, alongside me the former Leicester and West Ham striker David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. So it is 1-1 ahead of the second half. By the way, you can get in touch with us wherever you're listening around the world on our Twitter feed at TalkSport Live. That is what Olisa Abiazim has done. Says Happy World Radio Day. Yes, it is indeed World Radio Day. So happy World Radio Day to you all. Listening to you guys for almost 4 years now, since I've been 14. Helped me become the young pundit I am today. Well, if anything's going to make us feel old, David, it is that. Big 45 minutes coming up for both of these teams. Let's start with West Ham, because the way the table is at the moment, they're the team that are putting points on the board. They're the team that have played more games than all of their rivals. So it's really important that they actually see this one out and take the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, but look, I think, you know, David Moyes is a realist as well. He knows there is not a lot between these two squads, that's for sure. You know, maybe Leicester are at one of their weakest, you know, in terms of that starting 11 that's out there.
But they did beat Liverpool a few weeks ago, didn't they? So
exactly. They needed changes off the bench to do that as well. But they had Vardy then, and they were a different sort of animal, you know. But look, they're back in the game. It is 1-1. I think West Ham know that every point in the Premier League is hard to get. So I don't think they're not arrogant enough to feel that, you know, they warrant for, you know, they've got 3 points in the bag here. They know they've got to work really hard, and they might just fashion one good chance, and can they take it?
Let's give you the two teams then. Kasper Schmeichel in goal for Leicester. The back four's now Luke Thomas at left back. He replaced the injured James Justin in the first half. Daniel Amati, Chalos Soyuncu and Ricardo Pereira. It's Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Wilfred Ndidi and Yuri Tielemans, the goal scorer in midfield. The front three of Harvey Barnes, James Maddison and Patson Daka. West Ham with Łukasz Fabianski in goal. Vladimir Sofal, Craig Dawson, Issa Diop, Aaron Cresswell, the back four. Tomasz Souček and Declan Rice, the holding midfielders. Jared Bowen, Manuel Lanzini and Pablo Fornals, all supporting the lone front man, Mikel Antonio. If you're wondering where Kurt Zuma is, by the way, he felt unwell during the warm-up, and so he was replaced by Diop. So we're underway, the King Power in this second half. Leicester in their blue shirts and white shorts, attacking the goal away to our left. West Ham in the traditional claret blue, attacking the goal away to the right-hand side. As the driving rain continues in Leicester, it has been wet and windy from the get-go this evening. Which way will the footballing winds blow in this second half? Here's Ndidi. Such a solid player for Leicester. You look at the statistics, their win rate drops through the floor when he's not in the team. A player that was scouted by a video by Alex McLeish many moons ago in Belgian football. Here is Harvey Barnes, left corner of the penalty area. Just jabs it into the box, only halfway, and it'll fall for Maddison. Oh dear, he got it all wrong. 15 yards out, James Maddison. And his body shape, he was leaning back and he's hammered the ball over the bar.
Yeah, he just skewed this off the outside of his boot. I mean, he had little sort of wait for it to drop, and eventually he's come onto it and it's gone with his laces. And I mean, if that was rugby, we've had a little bit of rugby over the weekend, that would be a conversion, or maybe wouldn't. Didn't even go between the posts there.
I think he wouldn't have even got that. Certainly wouldn't have been good for the Super Bowl later either. Brendan Rodgers chewing furiously on the edge of his technical area. Very, very angry with that defeat to Forest recently. So we showed a lack of hunger. Our players need to look at themselves in the mirror and prove they're good enough to be here. said some players will feel they've achieved everything they can here. Some think they're top players, but they are a long way off.
Oof.
Now, if the manager's talking about the players in that regard, something's not gone right.
Yeah, it's pretty damning considering they were finishing 5th in the Premier League, which is one of the best leagues in the world, so I think they are pretty much top players.
Ball nodded forward by Souček on the edge of the Leicester area, only half cleared. It comes for Lanzini, now Rice works into Fornals inside left channel. There's a lot of flair in this front four for West Ham, the likes of Lanzini and Fornals. But this attack breaks down, and Leicester have given the ball away really cheaply in their own half there, but they got away with it. Strong header by Dawson on halfway. It falls for Declan Rice, pokes it out to the left-hand side in Cresswell. Back towards Declan Rice. Works it in field for Lanzini. This is neat and tidy from West Ham United, who are 4th in the Premier League and will be regardless of what happens in this game. It's currently 1-1 in the 48th minute at the King Power. Daka trying to latch on to a loose ball, but West Ham just about able to keep him at arm's length. And here's the goal scorer, Jared Bowen, for West Ham. That's Cresswell, always a willing runner down the left-hand side. Aaron Cresswell loops the cross into the box, headed away by Amati as far as Lanzini in the penalty area. Back to Cresswell, out to the left-hand side of Fornals. And his cross is blocked, and that'll be a West Ham throw, and West Ham have started well.
Yeah, they just didn't beat the first man there this time. Aaron Cresswell with the cross in, headed clear from Amati. They kept it alive. I think Brendan Rodgers, going back to what he said about the play, he's got to be careful because, you know, there might be a touch of arrogance about that in terms of, well, I'm a top manager, but you're not quite top players. And he's got to keep the players on side as well. And there's nothing wrong with home truths, but I think those players have served him pretty well over the last few seasons.
Always resonates a bit more when it's said publicly as well, which is kind of against the code to some extent, but managers do that, try and get a rise out of their players in public. Jose Mourinho's done that a fair bit in his career. Here's Sofal down the right hand side. Of course, you have to win games for that to work. Sofal goes down, referee gives the free kick. From your point of view as a player, David, did you respond well to that kind of thing?
I think you take it with a pinch of salt, to be honest. I don't know if the players will look too much into that. However, I think a comment such as they think they're top players would be like, oh, who does he mean then? You know, you'd rather you had a bit of honesty and said exactly who. You know, so
West Ham have won this free kick wide on the right. It's taken by Sofal, whipped in towards the edge of the box, headed away by Dewsbury Hall. It's picked up by Maddison. Maddison's lost it though, number 10 against number 10 to Lanzini. 5 minutes gone in the second half. Leicester 1, West Ham 1, and West Ham have settled more quickly than Leicester at the start of this second half. Here's Antonio, low ball into the box. Bowen with the shot, that was blocked, and he puts his head in his hands because he felt that was going in, and a stray Leicester boot stopped the ball in its tracks.
Tor just seemed to be dropping to the right play in the right position. He's only about 8 yards out there. Looked like a bit of a scuff finish though from Bowen, coming onto it with his favoured left foot.
Ball fed down that left-hand side by Cresswell, blocked by Ricardo Pereira. Jared Bowen with a sight of goal early in this second half. A man in form. 7 goals in his last 7 games, including the one he got in only the 10th minute of this game. Space for Sofal on the right-hand side. Comes inside the challenge of Luke Thomas and finds Rice, who strokes it across the centre circle to Diop. Good noise at the King Power. Of course, you look around Europe, still see COVID-19 related restrictions around Europe, but full stadia in the Premier League, and it is such an important part of the fabric of football. Rain really is very heavy now. Diop being chased down by Patson Daka, who's cut an isolated figure up front. Still no Jamie Vardy because of injury. Patson Daka has had his moments since joining the club from Salzburg in the summer. He scored 4 goals in a 4-3 win over Spartak Moscow in the group stage of the Europa League. He scored 4 Premier League goals. His first was against Manchester United, and he became the first Zambian score a Premier League goal, Patson Daka.
I just wonder though as well, Kevin, when you're the home team, would it hurt to play two up top? You know, could you do like a Ralph Hasenhüttl or, you know, at home when they played, even the way they played two, but Iheanacho, put him on up with Daka. I'm sure that would help. I mean, when he got those 4 goals, he was up top with Iheanacho.
Here's Harvey Barnes, nice little jinking run. He nearly found Luke Thomas, who was underlapping there at left back. And the referee has given the free kick. I think it might have been offside, actually, but the ball went back to him. In any case, it is a free kick to West Ham.
Yeah, Daka doesn't... I mean, whoever plays as that lone 9 for Leicester does feed off scraps, to be honest. So whether it's Daka or Vardy, that shows you what a terrific centre-forward you've got to be to play in this team, because you don't really get that much of the ball. But, you know, Iheanacho and Daka had that game together when he grabbed 4, and Iheanacho had a couple of assists in that game, and I'd just like to see him maybe go for it at home at times.
Ball is with Tielemans, works it to Ricardo Pereira, who comes infield from right back to Amati, who was closed down pretty quickly by Mikel Antonio, who plays his international football for Jamaica these days. Has scored for the Reggae Boys. Found it tough in CONCACAF qualifying, although they have had some decent results. Here is Tielemans. Low ball to Dewsbury Hall inside left channel. He's brought down on the edge of the area. Referee had a long look at that and says no free kick. It was Jared Bowen who made the challenge. Leicester felt that should have had a free kick there, but nothing doing. And here comes the stocky Bowen. And he runs out of room in the end as Luke Thomas wins it back on the left for Leicester City. Here's Ndidi back to Amati. Game on a knife edge. 54th minute here on Premier League Live. Leicester 1, West Ham 1. Ball is with Dewsbury Hall. Forward down the left-hand side to Barnes, who is thudded into by Sofal. And that will be a free kick to Leicester. It's been played at a high tempo, David.
Yeah, it has. I mean, the second half's been pretty frantic, to be honest. I think Leicester are buoyed by obviously getting that goal just before the break and started pretty well here. Just thinking that recovery challenge from Jared Bowen, it works really hard. There's an example of out the ball making that sliding lunge on Dewsbury Hall.
Poor old Dewsbury Hall, they got landed on by Craig Dawes. It's not a lot of fun, that, for Leicester's number 22. But he hopes to have more fun with this free kick. He's over it with James Maddison. Could be the outswinger from Dewsbury Hall, or it could be the inswinger from Maddison, who raises his left hands, runs over it. Dewsbury Hall's ball in. It's a good one. It's only half away. Barnes with the shot, and that was blocked just inside the West Ham penalty area. Dewsbury Hall wins it back to stop the West Ham counter. Here's Soyuncu, Turkish international, had a tough European Championship with his country. Turkey were atrocious really in the group stage. They were heavily fancied by many observers, including me, although I won't dwell on that. And they really were very poor indeed, and Soyuncu, big part of that. He hasn't really regained his confidence. Tielemans with a lovely ball out to the left-hand side for Harvey Barnes. Approaching the penalty area, goes on the outside. Barnes, cross to the far post, and he couldn't find Patson Daka. It was sliding in, just couldn't connect with it, but that was much, much better from Leicester City.
Yeah, all starts with a terrific switch of play from Tielemans, just opens the pitch out to Harvey Barnes. He drives at Sufal, breaks into the box. Sufal's a bit square, so he could go left or right here, Barnes. There's a little right foot step over, goes down the line. I don't think that's a shot. I think that's a cross, just half cut back to the far post, and Daka sliding in, just couldn't quite get contact on it.
Should he shoot?
Yes, I think he should have shot. A bit like Jared Bowen, just put his foot through that, aim for the far corner, and maybe there might be a spillage. You know, Daka could pick it up anyway.
Got a decent record against West Ham. Harvey Barnes, 2 goals in 5 games against them. Could have improved it there. Fabianski hits it long. Strong header by Soyuncu. For all that he has struggled, Soyuncu has had more clearances and blocks than anybody else on the team this season. Barnes comes in field. He is very strongly challenged by Lanzini. Very firm from the Argentinian, but West Ham can't play out. Leicester have won it high up the pitch. Here's Maddison, inside left channel, 25 yards out. Ndidi strokes it out to Ricardo Pereira. Infield it goes to Tielemans, back out to Ricardo Pereira. Outside to that right touchline. Back to Tielemans. Chips it into the penalty area. Barnes chested down. Left edge. Chips it towards the far post. And the header is into the top corner. And it is Ricardo Pereira who has completed Leicester's comeback. They probed and they looked for a way through. And Ricardo Pereira with his first Premier League goal for over 2 years. It's 2-1.
Well, the flying fullback here. Absolutely brilliant header at the back post. You've got to say Leicester have been the ascendancy. They've started so well in this second half. They eventually work the ball. The ball starts on the right hand side with Pereira. Comes to Tielemans again. He just tries to switch the play out to Harvey Barnes. Takes it on his chest. Gets his head up. It's not really closed down by Supal. Thinks a beautiful ball towards the back post, just inviting somebody to try and get on the end of it. It is Ricardo Pereira. It is the fullback who then joins in the box. Terrific header, and well, that is right in the top corner. Fabianski doesn't move a muscle for that.
All of those lonely moments in the gym, all of those moments of doubts, wondering if he could come back from those serious injuries that he's picked up. He's had to work so hard to get back to Premier League level, and his wide-eyed joy at scoring that goal tells a compelling story. Ricardo Pereira putting Leicester in front, and West Ham with it all to do. But here they come down the left-hand side. Fornell's cross is blocked and it loops up in the air, and Leicester have something to cling to here. But West Ham are the comeback kings this season in the Premier League. They've picked up 12 points from losing positions, more than anyone else in the English top flight this season.
Well, you have just timed that piece of research perfectly, Kevin. That is why you are at the top of your game as well.
That's what all those hours are for. That's why I never go out, you see. Here's Harvey Barnes.
Well, you don't get those trainers at home, so you must go out. For anyone that listening, Kevin's got a purple t-shirt, a purple watch, and purple trainers. So
see, that's the dream.
That takes time. That takes time and effort to coordinate such an outfit.
See, you don't just get football analysis, you get sartorial secrets as well.
There you go.
Ticking towards the hour mark on Premier League Live, and we've got a good one here, folks. Leicester have had to dig really deep this afternoon. They went a goal down inside 10 minutes through Jared Bowen, but Yuri Tielemans with a penalty drew the Foxes level on stroke of half-time, and a fine goal from Ricardo Pereira has put them in front for the first time. West Ham won't give up though. They don't get into the top four of the Premier League without having quality but also having grit and determination. Down goes Patson Daka. Referee gives the free kick, and there is a zip and an energy about Leicester City right now, and the yellow card is shown to Cresswell.
Well, this would mean so much. They could keep 3 points here. I mean, Ricardo Pereira, the ball's going out of play, just about keeps it in, scoops it inside to Daka, who's got nothing, nobody around him. He's completely outnumbered. In the end, Trezor brings him down. It might have just been better allowing Diop to deal with that.
If Leicester do win tonight, they move into the top 10. They would be 8 points off 7th, which is a Conference League spot. They'd be 10 points off the top 6. And they will have only played 22 games, so there is some time for them to turn this season around. Still 16 games to go after this one. They do have the Conference League to contest. They'll play the Danish side Randers on Thursday. And Declan Rice has just been shown a yellow card for a challenge in the centre circle, and he's not very happy with Michael Oliver, but he goes into the book.
Yeah, he's just a little bit late on Ndidi. Just bounces the ball back to Amati. Amati gives him a straight pass when he's got Declan Rice up his bum, and really all Ndidi can do is just give it straight back to him. It's a poor pass really, and invite the challenge, and Rice has got the book. And they've got to say, going back to Tielemans, we spoke about his energy endeavour in the first half. Obviously got the penalty, but had that recovery run too, and in this goal he doesn't get an assist, but what he does, he opens a pitch out to Harvey Barnes, and really they don't score that goal unless he plays that pass. Here he is again. He drops out as a sort of right back to play this. Well, we've got the Super Bowl on later, haven't we? Play these sort of quarterback passes, long raking diagonals that just open the pitch up.
And of course, if you've got a quarterback, you need a wide receiver, and that's exactly what Harvey Barnes was for that goal. Here comes Declan Rice.
Is this scripted? It sounds too good to just be off the cuff.
Here is Dewsbury Hall playing it out to this left-hand side for Harvey Barnes. He'll take on Jared Bowen on the outside. Low ball into the box. Away by Dawson. Comes to Dewsbury Hall, who was urged to shoot by the home fans, but instead he shifts it out to the left. Back to Dewsbury Hall. First time cross towards the far post. Cresswell saw the ball go over his head. He didn't know what was behind him, but on this occasion Leicester didn't have somebody charging in at the far post. 63rd minute, and the pendulum has swung, and it's swung in the Foxes' favour. But here come West Ham looking for Mikel Antonio.
Well, he's barely on. I mean, I can't recall you saying his name a lot, today. I mean, we spoke about Daka being starved of service, but I mean, Mikel Antonio has been fairly anonymous too.
Struggled for attacking momentum, certainly in this second half. Antonio has played a lot with his back to goal. Hasn't really been a factor in terms of scoring goals. He is West Ham's record Premier League scorer, 54 in all. 8 goals in the league this season, 8 goals in the league last season. With Amati in the right back zone for Leicester City, who lead 2-1 here on Premier League Live. Chip towards James Maddison. Now it's with Dewsbury Hall. Lovely little ball out to the left-hand side for Barnes, who's been a big factor in this second half for Leicester. In his right foot, Harvey Barnes goes for goal, blocked by Dawson, and Declan Rice sweeps up on the edge of the penalty area. West Ham will look to bring it away. Leicester growing in confidence as they look for what would be a precious win. They've lost plenty of games here this season, and they've failed to win any of the last 3 in the Premier League, but much better so far today after a rather shaky start, it has to be said.
Well, Brendan Rodgers, I mean, they've just forced an error there from Fornals with good pressure. You can see, Brendan Rodgers, what this would mean, these 3 points. It would relieve so much pressure on top of him.
It's interesting you talk about pressure. David Moyes talked about that in the build-up to the game. He says he feels that Rodgers shouldn't be under any pressure. Described him as one of the elite managers in Europe, and certainly one of the best in the Premier League. He said he hoped he could add to their bad run of form today, but felt they were a very good side. Managers will always club together to a certain extent, but there does seem to be, and rightly, a lot of respect for what Brendan Rodgers has done in his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, came so close to winning the title with Liverpool a few seasons ago. Also had great success with Celtic north of the border. And with Leicester City, he's done a terrific job. Here is Bowen, 10 yards inside his own half for West Ham, and he spreads the play to Cresswell. Can they regain the initiative, West Ham? Fornals, left corner of the penalty area. It's a great run by Fornals, but he went down. He'd run out of real estate there, and it was a rather desperate fall from the former Villarreal player. Here's Dewsbury Hall, who's becoming increasingly influential in midfield. He's run a long way here. Shifts it to Barnes, left corner of the area. Harvey Barnes, will he get the shot away? Well, it was rather unimaginative in the end. He had a defender right in front of him, just cannon the ball into his shins.
Yeah, this all starts with Fornals. He goes on the inside, but he's got Aaron Cresswell, made a brilliant overlapping run. He's got to put him in. He just runs into a dead end, really, and on the counter, Leicester didn't quite make the most of that. I mean, Harvey Barnes, I think, is trying to shoot through the legs of Soufal. He just closed them, read what Barnes was trying to do.
Here is Soucek. Gives the ball away cheaply. West Ham looking a bit more ragged since half-time, and Leicester's improvements is a big part of that. 66 minutes on the watch. Leicester 2-1 up against West Ham. Early today, Liverpool 1-0 winners at Burnley, thanks to a goal from Fabinho. Wolves won 2-0 at Tottenham. Newcastle beat Aston Villa, massive win for them. Here goes Barnes down the left, on the edge of the penalty area, cuts it back to the edge of the box, and it's swept over the top, left-footed by Yuri Tielemans, who is having a fine game.
Yeah, I mean, West Ham have got to get back, really, and trying to help out Soufal, who's 1v1 all day long against Harvey Barnes. Gets past him, looks like he's going to deliver in the box, cuts it along the edge of the box to Tielemans. Hard finish, that ball coming back towards you, 18 yards out on your left leg, and he couldn't quite keep it down.
So far's being taken off here.
Oh, well, that's maybe why then, yeah. I mean, he was left really isolated a lot against Harvey Barnes. No help from his wide man.
So it's Ryan Fredericks who will come on. That's a like-for-like change at right back. He's mainly played in the Cups this season, Ryan Fredericks, but he did play in the recent 1-0 defeat at Manchester United. Hammered long by Fabianski down the inside right channel for West Ham, flicked on by Souček. He's cutting a bit of an isolated figure, Mikel Antonio, at the moment, and Leicester are dealing with him pretty well. As we tick towards the final quarter of the contest, and Leicester heading for what would be a morale-boosting win to just ease the pressure at the club. Diop wrestling with Patson Daka. He's eventually lost it. He's out of position now. Here's Dewsbury Hall down the inside left channel. And he'll go for goal, oh dear, oh dear. But he's had a few positions like that where he's fed it to Harvey Barnes. This time he decided to pull the trigger. Yeah. Probably wishes he hadn't bothered.
Yeah, he's taken up some nice areas though, hasn't he? Just on that inside left channel, just leaves the wide space for Barnes. And he could have just given it to him and gone on then, you know, you take on Frederick, see if he's any better than Soufal. But he didn't. Took the shot on and just dragged it horribly wide.
It's quite an interesting story, Keane, in Dewsbury Hall. He's 23, so he's not incredibly young, but he's been with the club since he was 8. He went on loan to Luton last season, did very well, and has made that first team breakthrough with Leicester. Started 8 in a row now in the top flight, and he's a player that's getting more and more confident and more settled with every game. Madison brought down, and Brendan Rodgers does demand a lot from his midfielders, so it says a lot that Dewsbury Hall is keeping his place.
Yeah, I mean, look, he does give them really nice balance as well. He's a left footer playing left side attacking mid today. He's got Ndidi back there, you know, trying to hold the door a little bit. Tielemans drops off and he can pick a longer pass, but he gives them nice balance.
Patson Daka with his back to goal midway inside the West Ham half. Now it's with Luke Thomas, the left back. Shifts the ball forward to Barnes. Barnes tickles the ball infield, plays a 1-2 with Dewsbury Hall. Now it's back to Soyuncu. Soyuncu fires it long out towards Ricardo Pereira, whose goal has given Leicester the lead here. Leicester 2, West Ham 1.
Well, he's no Van Dijk, Soyuncu. He's tried a couple of those big long diagonals, just no point. Just let, you know, Tielemans do it, or somebody else, or just play it short. You know, when he's looked to go long, it's very rarely come off.
Had an unusual route to top flight football, Çağlar Soyuncu. He chose to play in the amateur leagues in Turkey to gain playing time and experience. He didn't want to go to an academy side in the Turkish Super League, and it worked out pretty well for him in the end. Joined the club called Altınordu, who do specialise in developing young talent, and that was when Freiburg in Germany, who always have an eye for a youngster, brought him in. He's done pretty well since, it has to be said, although this is one of his biggest challenges this season. Kasper Schmeichel, a long way from home, comes out of his penalty area and thrashes the ball to safety.
That might have cleared the stand, that one. There'll be a kid in the car park around the area running on. Oh no, it's come back on.
That was like his old man Peter, kind of clearance he would have produced. Although he'd have tried to score, in fairness. Forward by Souček down the right-hand side, looking for Fornals, but again the attack breaks down for West Ham, and they're struggling for momentum here in the East Midlands. Be a big setback this for West Ham if they lose the game. They'd only be ahead of Manchester United on goal difference, and all of their rivals for a top 4 finish will have played fewer games than them. Manchester United have played 1 fewer game, Arsenal 3, Tottenham 3 and Wolves 2, so tough situation if West Ham lose this game. Here is Ndidi to Tielemans. David Moyes has talked about the top 4 race and says we have an opportunity. He wouldn't normally say we'd be competing with Tottenham, Arsenal, Manchester United, but we are, and we need to up our game. We have the quality to finish in the top 4. They came so close to doing that last season, but finished 2 points outside the Champions League spots.
Well, I think also, though, he'll know, he's a realist, he'll know that there's not a lot to choose in the Premier League between a lot of these teams on their day. this Leicester's team, the starting team, might be a little bit weaker than it normally is, but nonetheless, there's not a lot between the two, so fine margins can often be the difference.
Mikel Antonio making a nuisance of himself down the inside right channel. Moves it out to Fornals, tight to the right touchline. Forward to Antonio, and his cross is a poor one. Slices it behind the goal. Jeers from the Leicester fans, and it's not quite happening for Mikel Antonio at the moment. And there's going to be a change here for Leicester, and it's going to be Ademola Lookman who will come on, and it's James Maddison who's going to make way.
Well, Lookman grew up not too far from where TalkSport is, Waterloo, playing there, signed by Charlton. One of his earlier games for the youth team, I was manager of Millwall's youth team, and Ademola was playing up front for Charlton. I remember after the game saying, who was that kid? He was good. And it was Ademola Lookman.
I remember Jason Newell talking in glowing terms about Ademola Lookman when he was coaching him. And he's had fascinating road, really. Went to Everton, it didn't really work out for him on Merseyside. He ended up going out on loan to RB Leipzig. Had a brilliant first spell in Germany with the Red Bulls, but even though they were desperate to bring him back, and eventually did, second time around it didn't quite happen for him. Didn't really win over Julian Nagelsmann at the time, and he's ended up moving back to England. He was relegated with Fulham last season, but now with Leicester having a better time of it. Scored a winning goal against Liverpool here not too long ago. Cresswell down the left for West Ham, queuing up in the middle if it's a good cross, and it was away by Suyunju, headed back in there by Declan Rice, and away by Ndidi. West Ham trying to build momentum, but of course they'll have to commit men forward, and Leicester do have the pace and quality to hit them on the counter. Leicester won the FA Cup last season, Community Shield this season, won the Premier League in 2016. They've reached the knockout phase of the Champions League in that spell. It's been a golden era. It wasn't that long ago that they were desperately trying to stay up in the Premier League. Here's Tielemans in the centre circle for Leicester, who lead 2-1. Finding Lookman. Now it's with Ricardo Pereira. Can play in all different positions. Lookman, he can play as a central striker or a winger. Where do you think he's best, David?
Yeah, it's interesting because he was a striker, but I think he's often shifted out wide, maybe just to get him in the team. Maybe I'm not quite sure he's got the stature that they're looking for. Maybe some teams as a central striker can do a job as a wide forward. Yeah, so it's hard to see where exactly he'd be able to nail down a place. But I saw him come on against Liverpool, and he absolutely terrorised Trent Alexander-Arnold with his pace. Got him behind him was crucial for the goal.
Here he is on the right-hand side for Leicester, approaching halfway. Moves it out to Ricardo Pereira. His goal the difference at the moment. 2-1 Leicester lead. And here's Lookman, nice little 1-2 with Patson Daka, but attack breaks down. And this is where things usually happen in West Ham games. There's been late drama so many times in West Ham matches. In the final 15 minutes of their Premier League games this season, there have been 19 goals, 10-4 and 9 against. Will we see another twist in the tail late in a West Ham game today? Here is Ricardo Pereira. Forward to Lookman, tight to that right touchline, faced by two, and wins the throw-in off Jared Bowen. Just can't get going at the moment, West Ham.
No, and I guess what can you change coming off the bench? I mean, Yarmolenko is not an upgrade on Mikel Antonio. Vlasic, I doubt, is going to have the impact. So it's difficult. They don't really have anybody else. Ben Rama possibly, but not really a goal getter.
It's a big talking point this at the end of the winter window, because a lot of people felt that West Ham should have gone out and got another attacking player, should have bought a striker. I think some West Ham fans were alarmed to see Wout Weghorst join Burnley for relatively little money, when maybe West Ham could have gone for him and given themselves another option in attack. But David Moyes was absolutely adamant that Jared Bowen could play in that position if necessary, and that they couldn't bring in somebody better than him. David Moyes wanted to bring in genuine competition, not just somebody to flesh out the squad.
Yeah, but surely, but as you say, Weghorst, somebody like that would have done a job. I guess, look, they took the money from Allaire, who's thrived since leaving, but they do look a little bit light. And obviously, Antonio's not getting any younger. He has had a lot of injuries. So, it looks like they do need someone else there.
I have to say, I don't think they ever really worked out what to do with Sébastien Allaire. I think the temptation is to look at him and think he's a traditional target man. Well, actually, he's anything but. Here is Dewsbury Hall, just to the left of the centre circle. It's an incredible group stage campaign in the Champions League. Sébastien Allaire scored more goals than played games for Ajax in that competition so far.
It could be another dark horse again, couldn't they?
Erik ten Hag, very highly rated coach, who's already got them to the semi-finals of the Champions League once. Been heavily linked with Manchester United, Ten Hag. Brendan Rodgers was linked with Manchester United at one stage, although it's fair to say the volume has been turned down on that in recent months. Here is Dewsbury Hall for Leicester. 78th minute, Leicester 2, West Ham 1. Dewsbury Hall strokes it forward looking for Daka. Daka just inside the left edge of the penalty area. He looks to tee up Harvey Barnes, and West Ham bring it away. Give it away really cheaply though by Fornals, who's not had his best game, I have to say. Here's Tielemans, 30 yards out, dead centre, finds Barnes, chips it over the top. Tielemans goes for it. Very good goalkeeping by Fabianski, who had to come flying off his line but also catch the ball and not flinch when Tielemans went for it.
That was unlucky. Nice little bit of invention there from Harvey Barnes. Rather than going around or through, he went over that West Ham back line. It just bounced in front of Tielemans, couldn't quite get on the end of it.
It's pretty good that from Łukasz Fabianski, because if you know you're going to have a boot come your way, temptation is to recoil, but I suppose goalkeepers are taught not to do that. Get bashed and battered in games and training all the time. Here is Mikel Antonio. It's a good turn, but it's just jabbed away from him by Ricardo Pereira, and then Amarty's clearance comes off Mikel Antonio and goes out for a goal kick. And Antonio is still pushing, still running. He'll never stop, but it has not been his night. And West Ham are making changes. Fornals has come off, and Nikola Vlasic replaces him. A man who's only ever scored one Premier League goal in his 23 previous appearances. And Lanzini has made way for Benrahma. Not really managed to get in the game, Lanzini and Fornals.
No, and I said this at the start, it doesn't matter how West Ham are doing, they've still got that issue to solve if they're going to play this way, with who's going to play as a number 10. And that's something they have to address in the summer. I think they obviously would have loved to have Lingard back. Didn't happen. But it's an area I think that needs a bit of care and attention, that's for sure.
So Nikola Vlasic, the Croatian, who struggled at Everton earlier in his career, hasn't really hit the heights with West Ham either. He's come on and signed Benrahma, who does have 5 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League this season. He will try and add to those numbers in the final 10 minutes. First thing he's done is chip the ball down the right hand side looking for Fredericks, and Fredericks hopes to have won the corner, and indeed has done. Leicester were hoping that they got away with that, but it will be a corner.
He did really well there. I mean, the ball's going out of play, just tried his best just to chop it back onto Luke Thomas to win the corner. That's exactly what he did, and we've already spoken about the height that West Ham possess to make the most of this set piece.
Well, here's the danger time for Leicester. They've conceded 13 goals from set plays in the Premier League, 10 of which have come from corners. Ball flicked on at the near post, and drop for Ndidi in the right back zone, and he should be able to clear, and he does, but that's a poor ball really. There was an unfortunate slip from Dewsbury Hall, but it's a dreadful ball to him really. Benrahma trying to make space on the left hand side and wins the corner, and West Ham are trying to turn the screw.
Yeah, just tried to, maybe a bit too cute, that pass out from Ndidi into Dewsbury Hall. He slipped over. Benrahma actually could have just put the ball back in, but nonetheless went down the line, won a corner.
I think that's one where as a Leicester fan, you'd be screaming for Ndidi to just put his foot through that.
Yeah.
Clear his lines, but it didn't work out that way, and West Ham have this corner. Antonio just on his haunches in the 6-yard box right in front of Barnes and the goalkeeper. They're trying to upset Kasper Schmeichel. Played in towards Dawson, brilliant header away, falls in brilliantly, oh, just wide. Fantastic effort from Benrahma. It dropped to him on the edge of the area. He tried the left-footed volley, and I tell you what, he didn't miss by much.
No, that's right. I mean, good header clear from Amati. He takes it off the head of Dawson, and as it comes down off the turf, left foot volley, trying to aim for that far corner. Difficult skill on your weaker foot. Just flash past the post. He's done well, Marty, got to say. He's had a good game at the back, you know.
Martial and Ndidi, when they've been called upon, have had some really good games. That win over Liverpool here, there was a terrific performance from Amati in the back four. It's a different position though, isn't it? Because I know people say, well, you know, a good defensive midfielder is a good tackler and wins the ball in the air and what have you, but positionally it's totally different, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess what you would say is if you're trying to get someone to slot back in there, it could be either a fullback or a defensive midfielder, because it's the closest to that position on the pitch, you know. He's done well when he's been called upon there.
No, there have been centre-backs who tried to then play defensive midfield, and a lot of the time that hasn't worked out very well. You have to have that 360 vision as a defensive midfielder. It's going to be a free kick here against Souček, who has fallen foul of the referee a few times tonight. And with 83 minutes nearly on the watch, it is Leicester 2, West Ham 1. If you're just joining us, Jarrod Bowen gave West Ham the perfect start with the opener inside 10 minutes. A needless handball from Aaron Cresswell let Leicester back into the game. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty on the stroke of half-time, but Leicester much better in the second half. And a brilliant goal from Ricardo Pereira, his first for over 2 years in the Premier League, has given the Foxes a sniff of victory here. Can West Ham find a way to snatch a point or maybe even more? It would only be Leicester's 8th league win of the season. They do have games in hand, and they do have a chance maybe to make up more ground on the European places. It's been with Cresswell down the left-hand side, rolls it to Vlasic down with the corner flag on the far side, the left. Rebuilt his career with CSKA in Moscow. Here is Benrahma with a shot from just inside the box, straight at Kasper Schmeichel, but Benrahma, since coming on, has made a bit of a difference.
Yeah, fast feet here on the edge of the area. Just gets away, left foot straight, he takes straight down the throat of Schmeichel. That's the only thing. Maybe a cross goal. Look, they had the far post loaded, 3 West Ham players waiting there.
Former Brentford player, Benrahma. Played for Algeria at the African Cup of Nations. It wasn't a successful campaign for Algeria, who were the defending champions. Had a talent-packed squad. Didn't manage to make an impact at all. Here is Diop. Plays it out to the left-hand side, and Cresswell. Leicester just trying to squeeze and make life tough for West Ham here. Declan Rice has had to drop all the way to the edge of his own penalty area just to get this started. Rolls it to Fredericks, loose touch, and just is not happening for West Ham at all. They can't get any kind of momentum.
Yeah, that was a fairly simple pass. I mean, look, he is tight to the sideline, Fredericks, but nonetheless, I mean, that change from Moyes to bring him on hasn't quite had the impact he'd probably want. Simple touch, control, just got away from him.
Dare say the touch of a man who hasn't played a huge amount in the Premier League this season. Hasn't got that rhythm. Here's Benrahma rolling it into Declan Rice, whose statistics as a central midfielder are outstanding. First in the Premier League for interceptions and possession won. Third with successful passes. Fourth with touches and passes into the final thirds. First in all of those categories for West Ham. Here's Harvey Barnes down the inside left channel. He's got Dewsbury Hall outside him, and he finds Dewsbury Hall, whips it across the 6-yard box, up but not really away by Diop. That's brought down delightfully by Benrahma, but then he's run his way into trouble. Here's Dewsbury Hall, played into the box, away by Diop. Only as far as halfway, chested down by Suunju's got himself in a right old mess there, but then got out of it with a square header to Ricardo Pereira. Now Tielemans has been brilliant. Forward to Lookman, into the penalty area, right edge, onto the left foot, and he drags it wider than near post. Ademola Lookman could have finished it there.
Yeah, it's unlucky. Nice bit of skill here. He's in the inside right channel, little right foot step over, takes a shot on with his left leg. I mean, Harvey Barnes did something similar on the other side. At the start of the second half, just dragged this wide at the near post. I think he's trying to deceive Fabianski, give him the eyes, fake to shoot far, but aimed at the near, just dragged it too much.
Can West Ham find a way of turning this game around?
Well, it's going to be a long throw in the box. He's taking off his gloves, Antonio. He means business here to launch this in.
He isn't messing around. Can he come up with the magic touch from this throw? Hurls it long. It's a good one, but nobody was coming in at the near post there, and it was hammered away by Leicester. Rice takes it 10 yards inside the Leicester half. 3 minutes of normal time to go. The turn from Benrahma into trouble, number 22 against number 22, as Dewsbury Hall closed him down. He's been an effective member of that Leicester midfield today, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Here's Antonio, who's nowhere near the box, chips it into the box, and the header down from Soucek is straight through to Kasper Schmeichel. The truth is, David, Kasper Schmeichel's had a very quiet game.
Yeah. And Antonio's nowhere near his gloves either. I mean, he took him off, take that throw, and what's he going to do? Is he going to go and put him back on? He's got a long way to go.
Nobody looks after anything anymore, do they?
Just casually, dispensing with gloves.
Might be a souvenir for someone. Here is Lookman. Reminds me of me as a kid. I was losing gloves left, right and centre.
Oh, don't. My favourite pair of gloves, right? I did the FA Pro licence, and Mercedes came in. The pit crew, the whole pit crew, total wolf, everyone. 2 cars, we had to change the wheels, everything. One of the mechanics gave me his gloves. I'm sure he
lost them.
I'm sure he wanted them back, but he didn't get them back. But nonetheless, I remember I went to watch Charlton once and running for the train, came down, I only got 1 glove, and I was like, So 1 glove lost in the valley somewhere, deep in the valley.
So he lost his gloves, and then you lost them for
Mercedes pit crew glove somewhere.
I'm sure there's a lesson in there somewhere. Here is Benrahma out to the left-hand side, loose touch by Cresswell, but he was then brought down by Tielemans, who's been bang up for this tonight. Maybe a little bit stung by all the talk this week about his commitment, and he's going to be replaced now, and this will be instructive, this response from the fans.
Yeah, he was terrific today, Yuri Tielemans. I mean, a proper performance.
Now, interestingly, he's gone off to be replaced by Yannick Vestergaard, who, of course, is a centre-back. And they'll do one or two things here. They'll either make it a back 3 or they'll move Amati into midfield. We'll see.
No, it'll be a back 3. They'll stick Vestergaard in there and just try and see this out for the last few minutes.
Final minute of the 90s. Big guy Vestergaard, the Dane, former Southampton player. Played a long time in the Bundesliga for Borussia Mönchengladbach as well. Ball dropping here for Benrahma, who shoots. That's deflected. The ball lands on the roof of the net. And we're in the 90th minute. And it will be a corner. And certainly not been for want of trying from Saïd Benrahma.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess, look, he's taken a shot on. He's been brave enough and confidence to do that.
He's had a shot straight at Schmeichel. He's had a volley. It's looped onto the roof of the net. He had a flying volley that went just wide. He's carried the fight for West Ham. And as we tick on to 90 minutes, West Ham have this corner. Diop, it's right in front of the keeper. Out towards the far post, and it's headed in! Leicester's defensive demons resurface, and Craig Dawson comes up with a magic touch, and the Foxes are undone right at the end. It's the same old story, and it's 2-2.
Well, it's Dawson with the header, but this is all about the delivery. And I'm sure Mikel Antonio, they'll look at this, whether he's impeding Kasper Schmeichel. I mean, he's got his body down low. He's wrestling up against Vestergaard. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He comes flying in up against Amati. It's not a clean contact from Dawson. I think it comes off his shoulder, possibly in the end. Or it might be, top of his shoulder, maybe his arm, and it just kisses the top of the bar. There are Leicester players on the line who can't do much about it, but is that off his arm?
Now the question's going to be, how high up the arm is it? That's what the VAR, Chris Kavanagh and his team will look at in Stockley Park. Does it come off the arm or does it come off the shoulder?
The upper bicep. It's a goal.
Goal given. It is 2-2, and Leicester only have themselves to blame. It is the 14th goal they've conceded this season from a dead ball situation. The 11th from a corner, and you just cannot consistently concede goals from that kind of situation.
I mean, we didn't want to keep saying it, but obviously we were. The threat that West Ham are at set pieces, because they are so big, and in the end, you know, that's where the goal has come from.
So West Ham have grabbed at least a point, but remember what happened here against Tottenham. Tottenham were 2-1 down in stoppage time and won it. Forward towards Antonio. Will Leicester crumble again, or will they actually go on and win it? Dewsbury Hall on halfway, trying to get the better of Declan Rice. He's matching him stride for stride, and Rice takes control of that situation. He's so good in that kind of scenario, and he whips it towards halfway. Brought down very neatly by Sunji. We're in the 3rd minute of 4 added. Leicester for so long looked as though they were heading for an important victory. Here's Dewsbury Hall. Back for Harvey Barnes, 25 yards out inside left channel. Floats it out to the inside right channel for Ricardo Pereira. Infield to Lookman. Thinks about the shot. Lookman, low ball into the box, swept away. Antonio will chase. He's the only West Ham player in the Leicester half. And the ball all the way back to Kasper Schmeichel. He's barely had a shot to save, and he's been beaten twice. It's going to be a hammer blow, this, for Leicester, if they end up not winning this game. West Ham were the better team for the first half hour, but Leicester slowly but surely took it over, and it is more frustration for Brendan Rodgers.
Well, the change, I don't think, obviously has worked in terms of bringing Vestergaard on, trying to see the game out.
You're not singing anymore rings out around the King Power, and I tell you what, the Leicester fans have gone awfully quiet.
The old ones are the best.
Well, they're spot on, because those Leicester fans who for so long thought they were going to see 3 points, it's actually going to be 4 games without a win in the Premier League, unless they do something special here. Daka challenging Dawson on the edge of the area, and he's won it. Did brilliantly, Daka. And Ndidi, oh dear, he has slammed that well over the top. Wilfred Ndidi, and he wasted what was some sensational work with his back to goal from Patson Daka.
Yep, and just coming back to West Ham, and you mentioned Ben Rama, the impact he's had. He's been so bright, you got to say. You know, I know I've critiqued whoever played that number 10 role before, whether it's him or Lanzini, and they need to add to it, but since he's come on, he's had a real impact. We questioned who or what could come off the bench to make an impact. Well, Ben Rama's certainly done that.
Is this the final touch from Łukasz Fabianski? Hits it high into the air. Header won by Ndidi. Is there time for a twist in the tail? There is not, and it ends all square. Brendan Rodgers has to accept a point when for so long it looked as though he would take all 3. It's finished Leicester 2, West Ham 2, and here are the highlights. On the end of a long ball, brilliant from Jared Bowen. That's what he's all about at the moment. 1 long ball over the top, he scampered onto it, and then a low left-footed finish across Schmeichel and into the far corner, and the Happy Hammers make a fantastic start.
It's got to be something special with Kasper Schmeichel, who we saw against Liverpool, was superb, but there's nothing he can do about that strike. Absolutely brilliant.
It's Tielemans, and it's brilliantly put away into the bottom corner. Fabianski went the right way, it was a full stretch, and he got nowhere near it. Coolly done by the Belgian, and it's all square, 1-1. Barnes chested down, left edge, shifts it towards the far post, and the header is into the top corner, and it is Ricardo Pereira who has completed Leicester's comeback.
Terrific header, and well, that is right in the top corner. Fabianski doesn't move a muscle for that.
West Ham have this corner. Diop right in front of the keeper. Out towards the far post, and it's headed in. Leicester's defensive demons resurface, and Craig Dawson comes up with a magic touch, and the Foxes are undone right Leicester City, as has so often been the case this season, undone at a set piece. They have now conceded 41 league goals this season. So Leicester end up 11th in the table. West Ham have consolidated their position in 4th. So it's West Ham 4th on 41 points from 25 games. Manchester United in 5th. 40 points from 24. Arsenal 6th, 39 from 22. Wolves 7th. They won at Tottenham today, 37 points from 23. And Tottenham at 8th on 36 from 22. And Tottenham have lost 3 straight Premier League games. My thanks to David Connolly for his insight and his company. I've been your match commentator, Kevin Hatchard. The final score at the King Power tonight, Leicester City 2, West Ham United 2. And you've been listening to Premier League Live.
Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
They're improving week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the Talk Sport hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Talk Sport. 20 years old and still not able to make a cup of tea.
That's a great starting point, I think. Excuse me.
With bitter experience comes great responsibility.
Let's go to Cumbria and Fraser. Fraser, good morning. Hello. Fraser, get out of that lake.
The nation's first and best commercial sports radio station.
Live, lubricated and legendary.
20 years of Talk Sport.
Previously on White and Jordan.
This is rewarding mediocrity.
No. It's not. It's the exact opposite.
Two towering giants of sports media.
He's got COVID-19. He's got Newcastle wanting to sue him. He's got broadcasters pulling money out of deals left, right, and centre. You wouldn't want to fly with this guy, would you?
Jim White and Simon Jordan.
Double trouble, daily drama, and searing debate.
Continues weekday mornings from 10 on Talk Sport.
20 years of Talk Sport.
Gentlemen, good evening.
There's no such thing as an overnight success.
Accrington Stanley 4, titanium plasmatronic death droids from the future, 0.
Excess.
I wasn't getting up, I was just getting in.
Excitement.
Excuse me,
and extremely strong opinions.
I spend my life covering the big game at the big level.
On DAB, medium wave, and on this smart speaker. 20 years of Talk Sport.
Previously on White and Jordan.
If you haven't bought, owned, managed, sold a player, managed a football club, sat in a boardroom, sat in a dressing room, what exactly do you know?
100% engagement.
The Football League is a league which is a busted flush. You're obsessed with that subject, you do know that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. High Octane Radio. Continues weekday mornings from 10 on Talk Sport.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Beat off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ellen Price is dead. It's up it is.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lorna Clellan striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.